Well, a warm welcome to this talk. Now, a couple of days ago, the Senate Homeland Security Committee had hearings on the origins of COVID-19. Now, in the past, videos on this have been banned. Media censorship has been in place. Mainstream media has ignored it. Social media has deleted comments about it. And now it's finally coming into the open in the United States Senate Homeland Security Committee. Now, this applies to other things that we're not allowed to talk about as well, but this one we are allowed to talk about. And it really is quite outrageous that this was treated as a conspiracy theory when it's a perfectly legitimate scientific consideration. How can we have an open debate if things are a priori dismissed as conspiracy theories? Why not examine the scientific evidence first? And that's finally coming out, and a lot of it is through freedom of information requests, unfortunately. Now, the hearings are opened by Senator Peters, and he stresses this as a scientific analysis on the origins of the virus with public health and homeland security issues, not just for the United States. This is a vital matter for everywhere, because he talks about protection from future threats, whether accidental or malicious, deliberate. And we do face future threats because we've got incompetent scientists around the world doing this research in leaky laboratories very often. And we've also got, to be quite honest, the risk of military biological threat as well, of course. And he says that the United States will take the necessary steps. Now, just let me give you the evidence for this first of all, because we always have to make sure we're evidence-based. Here we are. This is it. Homeland Security and Government Affairs. That's the link. You can download the text from the scientists. That's the title, Origins of COVID-19, an examination of available evidence. So evidence is good. And that's the date, and that's the full thing on YouTube there for your own perusal. It does last several hours. That's why I'm sort of doing a bit of a shortened version of it. Now, I'm going to listen. We're going to listen to... I plan just to summarise this. I will summarise it briefly, but Senator Rand Paul, he's saying that the lab in Wuhan was already doing this work. The lack of evidence for an animal normal natural spillover event. You know, I actually don't know of any evidence for a natural spillover event. If it's a natural spillover event, we'd expect it to crop up in various places from the animal reservoir at various times. It didn't. We'd expect to find an intermediate animal. We haven't. We'd expect to find an evolutionary history of the virus. We haven't. We would expect to find antibodies to the virus in the natural reservoir. We haven't. I actually don't know of any evidence for a natural origin of the virus, although some people are still trying to do mental gymnastics to demonstrate that it is, for reasons I couldn't possibly speculate on. So he talks about that at some length. Gain of function was happening in the Wuhan labs, according to the opening thing by Senator Paul. Censorship emails were deleted. It's almost as if some people felt a bit guilty about this and were brushing out their footprints on the trail. Almost like that. Who knows? Lack of open debate, of course, and other points. Anyway, let's listen to Senator Rand Paul now, and then we'll look at some of the scientific depositions, which are very detailed and, in my view, totally convincing. Let's listen to Senator Paul first of all. It's only a few minutes. Give him a bit of time.
So, Ranking Member Paul for his opening remarks.
Today we are here to examine one of the most critical and debated questions of our time. Did COVID-19 originate in a lab? To answer this question, let's revisit the early days of the pandemic and examine what some of Dr. Anthony Fauci's inner circle said privately about the origins of the virus. Discussions that were only revealed through FOIA litigation. Christian Anderson wrote, "The lab escape version of this is so friggin' likely to have happened because they were already doing this type of work, and the molecular data is fully consistent with that scenario." Ian Lipkin stressed the nightmare of circumstantial evidence to assess regarding the possibility of inadvertent release, given the scale of bat coronavirus research pursued in Wuhan. Bob Gary said, I really can't think of a plausible natural scenario where you get from the bat virus, or one very similar to it, to COVID-19, where you insert exactly 4 amino acids, 12 nucleotides, and all have to be added at the exact same time to gain this function. I just can't figure out how this gets accomplished in nature. According to Gary, it's not crackpot to suggest this could have happened given the gain of function research we know was happening at Wuhan. These are all private statements, which you'll discover today differ greatly from their public statements. Even Ralph Baric, world-famous gain-of-function researcher and collaborator with Wuhan's Dr. Shi, admitted, so they, the Wuhan Institute of Virology, have a very large collection of viruses in their laboratory. And so it's, proximity is a problem. It's a problem. Federal court orders reveal that even Dr. Fauci himself privately acknowledged concerns about gain-of-function research in Wuhan and mutations in the virus that suggest it might have been engineered, just days before he commissioned the proximal origin paper. Despite these private doubts, publicly these so-called experts and their allies were dismissing the lab leak theory as a conspiracy. Within days, Anderson, Lipkin, and Gary were putting final touches on what would be remembered as one of the most remarkable reversals in modern history. In their proximal origin paper, these scientists concluded, we do not believe that any type of laboratory-based scenario is plausible. Privately, they were saying one thing. Publicly, they were saying another. Media pundits parroted the narrative while social media platforms censored discussion about the lab leak, labeling it as misinformation and stifling open discourse about the virus's origins. The cover-up went beyond public statements. Federal agencies and key officials withheld and continue to conceal crucial information from both Congress and the public. For instance, David Morenz, Dr. David Morenz of the NIH, deleted emails that could have contained valuable insights into early discussions. When he deleted them, he made the comment, I think we're safe now. He deleted emails. He said, the early emails I've deleted to Peter Daszak at EcoHealth, I think we're safe now. The ODNI failed to comply with a law that was passed unanimously. One of the senators on this committee got it passed. We were going to declassify all this and revealed it, and the administration has refused. HHS and NIH have not produced documents related to the gain-of-function research that the chairman and I requested nearly a year ago. I've been asking for 2 or 3 years as an individual member with some other Republican members and have not gotten these records. I've now asked with the Democrat chairman over a year, and they're still resisting. They say it's not gain-of-function. Well, let's hear the debate. Did they debate at NIH whether it was gain-of-function in Wuhan? If there's a debate, let's hear the scientific arguments on both sides. They will not give us that information. This has been a deliberate, prolonged effort to deceive the committee about certain gain-of-function research experiments that the agencies have been withholding. What we have found as we've gone through this is that at every step, there's been resistance. So the hearing today is to try to find out whether or not we can get to the truth. Do we know for certain it came from the lab? No, but there's a preponderance of evidence indicating that it may have come from the lab. Do we know viruses have come from animals in the past? Yes, they've come from animals in the past. But this time there's no animal reservoir. There's no animal handlers with antibiotics. There's a lot of reasons why there are indications that this could well have come from the lab. This is what the discussion we'll have today. This is a discussion that's long in coming. It's been over 3 years that we've been asking for this, but this is great. This is good. We'll have scientists on both sides of this issue, and I hope we have a spirited debate. Thank you.
Well, quite hard-hitting, I think you will agree. I think I'll just leave this one here and we'll go on to some of the expert witnesses in the next video. So do come back and we'll carry on looking at this. It's so important to prevent this happening again and to guard against accidental and malicious biological assaults, because they are coming. It's much more stealthy than parking warships off the coast. Anyway, let's leave that there for now, and we'll look at some of the further evidence in the next video.